George's saving grace, however, was his wife. He had married in his late teens Caroline von Anspach, and this was in Germany before they ever came to England, and they had raised their family there and then finished it off in England. She was his intellectual superior by 10, no question of a doubt. She was more thoughtful than her husband, obviously, and she saw the utility of Walpole. So every time George began to grumble about being uncomfortable with Walpole's ideas, she said, well, now listen, he's making us rich. And he was. He was making the royal family hugely wealthy with his policies. So George shut up and Walpole stayed. Both the king and the queen were, I would imagine in today's ideas, coarse, foul-mouthed, and vulgar. They enjoyed an extraordinarily rich sexual life. They were passionate in their couplings, and you could hear it out in the hallway, the grunts, the groans, the screams of delight, and the thrashing of the bedboards and the rest of it. And everybody knew that they were getting along just beautifully. But George did philander, no question about that. He philandered, and the queen was very concerned that she never lose her hold over him. I suppose this is not an unusual circumstance. And so she always tried to meet him on his own ground. And he was a physical man. He enjoyed sport and outside riding and all this sort of thing. One of the things they got into the habit of doing was a post-tea walk, whatever the weather, winter, summer, whatever. So sometime after 3:30, before that area, the king would come and throw open the door and collect his wife, and off they'd go. Well, in her 30s, she began to develop arthritic problems. And because her feet pained her, especially in the winter. And so she didn't want George to think that she was ill or incapacitated or weak or feeble or any of this, because she felt that this would turn him off, as we say. So, on those winter days, when they were going off on their walk, she would have her maids bring in about 20 minutes or 30 minutes ahead of the walk time. And George was very punctual. He always arrived on time. He had to be ready. Buckets of ice water and ice. And she would plunge her feet into the ice water over and over and over until she couldn't feel anything. Then the maids would dry her feet, put on the wool stocking, lace up the boots. The door would fly open. Mein Schatten, here, so off they hustled, and of course for the first 20 minutes her feet were fine, and she would stump around with her husband.